Welcome back, everybody. Today happens to be May 20th, which is the day 1 year ago when I actually started the show. So without realizing it until about half a minute ago that I'm doing a show on the same day that I started my show, please welcome to the program wonderful independent filmmakers, Tyler Parks and Tiffany Littlejohn.
Hey, Alan, thanks for having us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Yeah, and thanks for waking up early. I know you guys are on the West Coast. I'm Central, so it's a little it's a little easier for me. So the reason why we have you both on is because you have a very cool web series coming out May 24th called Indemnity: The Rabbit Hole. And I want to learn all about it. I want our folks to know about it. We're going to put a trailer right below as well as the link, so please go follow there and let's find out more. So tell us, I know you're both on the creative team, so I'll start with the ladies. Tiffany, what is this web series all about?
This web series was a quarantine project from the mind of my friend here, Tyler Parks. He had the idea to create a project it started out really small, but the gist of it is a show that takes place in 2022 about an off-grid tech whiz who is on the run. And the world that we've created is mandated vaccines, total surveillance, digital currency, and his goal is to save his sister, who's been kidnapped by this pharmaceutical company, who's tracking his every move, and his parents are involved in this company. And so the gist of it is off-grid tech whiz, self-proclaimed reality theorist, receives a package in the mail, and he's sent on a journey to find his AWOL parents before the vaccine mogul Delilah Green forces their return. And Austin, which is played by Tyler Parks, tries to calm his anxiety through weekly therapy sessions with Dr. Charlotte Walker, who doesn't always see eye to eye. With the aid of his best friend, Kat Frederick, a modern-day Robin Hood, Austin navigates this world where cash is obsolete and indemnity points are the only form of currency.
Got it. So basically, during the height of the pandemic, when you had time to reflect and do something, you decided to go dark. You decided to see what would it be like if it's even worse now, right?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the show is basically around this what if theory. Like, what if everything hits the fan? What happens? How do we function? How do we live? And what are our new perspectives about this? Not only things involving, the medical field, vaccines and things, but also with censorship and with, we know Bitcoin's becoming a big deal. What happens when all of that becomes solidified in our society?
Yeah. And how did the name come about? I actually, I feel like a dumbass because I had to look up exactly what indemnity meant, realizing that I knew it all along and I actually have insurance. That is indemnity insurance for my business. But how did the name come about for you?
Oh, well,
let's continue with Tyler. Yeah.
Oh, me? Oh, sorry. Well, actually, this is actually from the great mind of Tiffany Littlejohn.
Okay.
When I kind of approached her with this random 3 a.m. musing thought about this show, she like dove headfirst into it. And I just remember reading the first draft of the first episode, and she was like, "It's not finished yet, so just be kind." And I was like, "No, I'm sure it's great," which it was. But the one thing that struck me was this idea of indemnity points. And it was like, what is that? And she was like, it's our currency. It's how everything works and how everything moves. And so as we went through the show, the original title was something completely different. But as we filmed the show, and it just kind of kept coming back, and I was like, Tiff, I think the show's name should be Indemnity. It is about how the world is really set up, about how these points affect everything. And we also had to look up what indemnity meant as well. But basically, it is this kind of form of a contract. It's this form of, we give you this and you get, you give us this, whatever it may be. If we want to think on in very plain terms, it's almost like a barter system. you know, whereas, you know, they'll give you something as an incentive. As long as you're using it or buying it or not complaining about it, you're good. And I think that's what the world kind of revolves around, is this idea of how these points are affecting what people do, how they function, if they are able to live.
Yeah. And then Tiffany, in terms of kind of the writing of it, did it start out where you already knew that it was going to be a series, or did you think of it as a short and then it kind of evolved from there?
Well, it definitely started out as a series. Like Tyler said, when he had this idea, he presented it to me and said, "Hey, I think I have this idea for this web series." And initially, it was just supposed to be 4 characters, very small. All the actors would film themselves in their apartments. But as we started developing it, we were like, it just kind of kept getting bigger and bigger. So we knew all along that it would be a series, but we didn't realize that it would kind of morph into what it is now, which is like, I think 21 actors. Started from 4 to like 21. So definitely knew it would be that. But I think we're just amazed at how we were able to kind of create this world and kind of get everybody to kind of get on board with it. At the last minute, Tyler had the idea at the beginning of September of 2020, and I started writing like, mid-September, and we finished, I'd say like maybe early November, and we had to still cast, we had to find a crew, all of that like within weeks, and really no time to prep, no time to meet with the DP, no time to do rehearsals. And I think we're just amazed at how we were able to kind of get it all together. So it's definitely, something that we're proud of, and just kind of still like, I can't believe we did this.
And as you should. And that's, again, it kind of dives into what independent movie making is like, or, series making is like, is guys and girls just getting together and saying, let's do this. And thankfully, the technology is there now where we can actually develop a product and we can go through the whole thing. You obviously still need to have money. You need to go through the whole process of casting, as you mentioned, getting the crews out. The equipment is awfully expensive. So there are all sorts of things that you have to go into, plus locations and everything else. But you can do it. And I think, how long did it take for you guys to shoot it? Because you also were dealing with timelines of when California opened up before it closed again. How long did it take for you to shoot?
Um, Actually, well, because I also want to tag on something else you said, Alan, but it actually took, I think we had 18 shooting days. But originally we only had planned for 12. What? Oh, 1 week. Yeah, that's right. A week and a half. It was a week and a half originally. Yeah. And then ended up becoming 18. We filmed in 2 cities in California. And it was crazy because the state was kind of opening up a little bit. And so we were like, this is perfect. Like we can shoot. We made sure to kind of comply with all of the COVID things as far as like the SAG guidelines and stuff. We were like, let's make sure we kind of follow everything to make sure everybody's safe and protected as much as possible. But it was like, okay, we got this small time, let's do it. And then I think halfway through filming, the state was like, we're about to shut down. Everybody's about to have a curfew. We were like, wait, we're not done yet. So it was like, crank it out. We just have to keep going. And one of the great things about being able to kind of just continue to crank it out, and kind of going back to what you had said about, the equipment and all the things, we actually shot this whole entire series on an iPhone.
That's
using
even better.
shot it on an iPhone using like a little iPhone gimbal, and using 2 soft boxes from Amazon and another lighting kit that our DP got. So it was just kind of cool that we were able to, we didn't have so much equipment that it was just like hard to move around and hard to really reschedule things. We just kind of packed stuff in cars and we're like, let's go, let's do it.
No, that's really important because, again, for for anybody that has been on a set, just how long it takes time to set everything up. and then to move it for another shot and another coverage and another coverage. So the way that you did it allowed you to be much more nimble. That's great. And then again, the idea of a budget, right? So all of the equipment that we've mentioned before is expensive. Having not dealt with it, and again, it's none of our business whether you pay the actors or was deferred. That doesn't matter. But in terms of the budget for the project, there's still thing that has to get done. So did you have any sponsors? Was it all kind of self put the dent into savings in order to get this done?
It was definitely self-funded.
Okay.
And again, initially we were like, oh, small 4-person, film, so we can do this. And it just kind of kept morphing. But I mean, I have to tell you, like, we were so fortunate and blessed to kind of just really have things fall into line and people willing to help. Our family, chipped in, they're very supportive of what we're doing. And while the budget kind of kept increasing, we were still able to do it. And we just got breaks here and there. We filmed in some of our castmates' apartments. We were able to find other locations on Peerspace, and we were able to get some good deals there. And again, the equipment, we just had to rent, not a lot of equipment. And we had a very small crew, just a DP, myself, our AD, and a sound guy. So we were really like trying to cut corners wherever we could, and just really worked out for us.
That's very cool. And did you have this shown to producers or to streaming services? I know it's coming out on your website, and it's also there's another way that it's coming out. What are the two ways that people can see this May 24th?
People can see it through the website, indemnitytv.com, as well as YouTube. So we'll kind of be filtering it through both. But at the moment, that's the only two places that it'll be shown. But yeah, we look to the future, and we would love a streamer to come along, as long as they let us create. It would be great to we welcome all opportunities. Because we really are proud of what we've been able to create, and we hope that it can continue growing.
I think so. And sorry for interrupting you, Ty. The trailer looks very interesting. And again, everybody click on the trailer so you can watch it. The trailer looks interesting. I'm intrigued. I want to kind of see what's happening. I was a part of, again, my acting career. I live in Chicago, so I've done mostly independents. And there was the independent that was also about censorships and the future and having a device. And if you don't have the device, they're going to come after you. So I was a part of that one. So as soon as I saw this, I'm like, yep, I love it. Same boat. I want to learn more about it. So the ideas are there now as after you shot it, right? Because you kind of got done at the end of last year. And now moving forward, and we're almost into half the year. Have your views on what you thought would happen and all of the things that you were worried about happening. Have your views gotten better and you feel better about where we're going as a society? Or you're thinking, yeah, we could have gone dark and probably that's where we're going to end up anyway? Tiffany, what do you think?
Well, I'd say, it remains to be seen, I think. I think we've kind of created a world where it's kind of just, we're just kind of giving you like an insight of where it could go, but it's the rabbit hole. So we have a lot more to kind of delve into, hopefully, as we get into other seasons. But I mean, I think obviously like to remain optimistic and, hope that things get better. But I think it's also important to kind of just be prepared for whatever. And we kind of want to, allow that to exist in this world that we've created.
No, makes sense. Tyler, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny because I think over the last almost 6 months now since we wrapped, it's just been interesting. Tiffany and I, obviously, we talk every single day for hours a day, going through the edits, going through notes, all the things. But every time we watch the show, we're like, man, we just saw an article about this, or we just saw an article about that. And it's like, and these are thoughts that came out, towards the later part of last year, but September, October, and even into November when we started shooting. And it was just at that time, it just felt like, are we going too far? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, like this is where we're trying to go. But it's just funny because I think the world's perception of, if we would have said those things in November of last year to the public, they'd probably be like, no, that's not going to happen. And now I think because of just how the world is kind of changing and morphing, it's becoming more like, oh, that's interesting that, I saw an article just about the same thing. So, I think it, like Tiffany said, I think, we want the show to be left open to, there could be more. There could always be more.
Yeah.
But also to have hope. I think that's the other part. It's like, it is somewhat of a dark show, but at the same time, there are, those beacons of hope in the show that kind of steer us to like, okay, maybe things can be different. Maybe we can change this. So yeah, I think, we'll see.
And have there been, I hope so too, right? Keeping our fingers crossed. Watching Black Mirror or watching some of the other things, you're like, yeah, I see that. I hope it doesn't happen that way. And that leads me kind of into the next point of, as you were writing it, were there any inspirations for, some of the tones of the show or the themes of the show, like Black Mirror or some of the other shows that you know of? Did you have any inspirations, or this is kind of, our baby, we're going out there?
I'd say it is our baby. I actually tried not to watch anything so as not to influence, myself.
Yep.
Or, it's like, oh, hey, that looks like that's from this. Although, when a few people read this, like, oh, this reminds me of this, or this reminds me of that. But the only show that I ended up watching was Handmaid's Tale. Like, I had watched like the first few episodes a couple years ago, then I just stopped for whatever reason, and then I kind of went back to it, and that's probably the only show that I did end up watching. And it's, they're not similarities in a sense, like it's like, oh, this is kind of lifted from that or anything at all. But I think just that kind of dystopian future, and kind of what that would be. And, I'd say I tried to even look at just the world that we were living in at the moment, and kind of what people were saying, like their fears, and kind of what was like, even with the immunity passports, that was being talked about back then. Like, oh, that's a conspiracy, that's not going to happen, and now we're talking about them right now. And so, we tried to kind of create something that was relevant to our world, but also a what if scenario. So that's kind of, I guess, where I try to pull from, and just, also just thinking what my fears are, what Tyler's fears are, and what other people around me, what their fears are, and just kind of using all of that to create, what we have now, for sure.
Yeah. Tyler, did you have anything to add? I saw that you wanted to jump in.
Oh no, Tiffany explained it. Yeah, it's 100%.
Yeah, it is a difficult kind of thing to play with, because I'm Jewish, so I grew up learning about the Holocaust and my relatives who are a part of that, and wearing a star, having to identify yourself as being different, and now, not to put it in the same framework, but you hear kind of the same undertones of, those who are vaccinated can do this, those who are not cannot. Well, I had COVID in December. I checked my antibodies every 3 months. The antibodies are still there. I still don't know exactly why I should be taking a vaccine. And I heard from, you're listening to different people. Some are saying you should take it because it improves and it's a better, robust response for the immune system. Others are saying, no, you shouldn't, because your natural response is the best one. So when this information is kind of there, and then I am like, well, I guess I can't go to concerts while I'm trying to decide. And that thought keeps creeping back into my mind of, at some point, am I going to have to wear something that says I'm not vaccinated and I choose to do so because I already had COVID? So like, these themes are difficult to play with. On a macro level, I get trying to get everybody vaccinated, and I'm completely for it. But shouldn't we find kind of a better space that allows science and people's experiences to have a middle ground? I don't know. So those things I'm worried about. But when you are talking to media, right? So you're having this interview. I am not media traditional sense, but you're going to be talking to more people. How do you deal with these concepts? Because you're saying, hey, we're imagining a dystopian society where everybody is forced to do something, and we're kind of saying maybe that's not a good idea, where right now in our society, we're having some of those same tones. How do you address that without making people fearful of or saying that you're on the fringe?
Well,
Yeah.
well, it's interesting because I think you're absolutely right. I think we're already starting to see the first kind of wave of, like you're saying, wearing that sticker or whatever that says,
Yeah.
we're already starting to see it with the vaccination cards. And not to say that, those shouldn't exist, but in the way that people are putting them out, it's becoming this, oh, let me, like we used to do, or we do with, voting stickers. You vote every year, you put
Yep.
a sticker on your Instagram or your social media. Now people are doing it with their vaccine cards. And I think that's kind of, this first kind of wave into what does this look like when we are trying to kind of socially separate people,
Yep.
those who are vaxxed then, versus those who are non-vaxxed, and kind of those undertones of how we feel about both of those groups. Whether you're in the vax group or you're in the unvaxxed group, you have opinions about the other. And I think having, like you're saying, finding that middle ground, having a middle ground, having that conversation to understand, like, is that really where we want to go? Is dividing and separating people even more? I mean, we're already all separated, just in general without COVID. But it's like, are we really wanting to push that even further now, with, people's bodies, with their own bodies, with their own feelings, if they want to get vaccinated or if they don't? And I think, Tiffany's done such a great job with the show, being able to kind of depict what that could look like later on, if all of that actually comes true. I don't want to spoil it necessarily, but
No,
what does
please
that
don't.
look like, later on, when we've really divided people and we've made it okay to judge either side? What does that look like? And I think Tiffany's done a great job in the show, kind of uh, uh, showing what that could potentially look like. And I think it's somewhat, equivalent to wearing something that says you're not vaccinated or not, or you are or you're not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough thing, and then add on all of the political and the racial divides, and our country is really going through an interesting period where hopefully we'll come out more unified and understanding of each other. But I'm not sure that we will, because I'm not seeing the signs pointing that direction. I'm an internal optimist, so I'll stick to that. But yeah, I want to see some better signs. So in terms of filmmakers, right? Some people may get the idea that independent filmmakers, anybody can just grab a camera and do it. Okay, yes, technically that is true. But Tyler, you've been an actor and you've done this for quite a while. You have a bunch of credits. People have seen you on shows like Westworld. I know we keep talking about Westworld. By the way, I thought that that particular scene was very funny when he was drunk and you needed to snap him back into it. Westworld is a ridiculously amazing show. So we've seen you there. Tiffany, you've worked your way up. You've been on a ton of projects, kind of behind the camera. So just because you are an independent filmmaker, it doesn't mean that you just grab a camera. You have a lot of experiences, and this is just another way for you to continue with your storytelling. So I just wanted to highlight that so people don't think that it's just a couple of guys doing doing a little project. It's a lot more complicated than that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Mhm.
yeah. And Tiff is, she's a graduate of cinematography, directing. So, that's how we met originally, is doing her thesis film, actually, many, many years ago. And, it was in the festival circuit for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. It just kept circulating. And it's one of those things where, I think it's always great for people to be creative and express themselves, however. But I think for this, it was great to kind of get everybody, because we've also worked with our DP before, and so many times. And so it was just kind of great to get like our kind of, small team back together, and work on something that we were all passionate about.
That's awesome. And where do you see this going? I know you've mentioned season 1, so there are definitely plans for season 2, or at least that's what it sounds like. Have you started writing something for season 2?
Not yet. Our plan is to actually, once everything is out, Tyler and I are going to kind of do a little boot camp for about a week, and just really, we've kind of thrown around ideas about how season 2 would start, and really fleshing out the characters that we've created. So, we've kind of been brainstorming certain ideas, but once the show is out and we kind of see how it's received, ultimately we want to kind of get back together and take a week or so and really just kind of flesh everything out, and then see where the show is going to go, develop more, and then I'll probably just start writing again, and that's our plan. Yeah.
And pitch it to Apple, because you did it all on an iPhone. And then how do you know Apple TV is not in your future, right? Because that addresses both. You have a sponsor and you have a streaming service. So start pitching. I know all of the best indies that I have worked on, they as soon as they're done, as soon as they've shot their pilots, it's all about pitching, and some of them got picked up. So I wish that same thing for you as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on. I'm excited. Again, everybody, please go and click on the description, because you'll see the links and you'll see the trailer. Follow on social media. I know I am on at least Instagram. I haven't gotten to you guys anywhere else yet, but on Instagram we're connected. So I'm excited. I wish you nothing but the best, and let's hope this dystopian future never happens, but we can enjoy shows where we get to explore that.
Definitely.
Yes.
Well,
Perfect. Well, thank you. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry, Tiffany.
Oh, no, just thank you so much for having us on.
Yes.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Tyler. Best of luck. And everybody, thanks for joining us on another episode of Let's Dive In. Let's dive into their show next week. See you later, everybody. Take care.